Okay, start recording. All right. Hello, everyone. This is episode 126 of A Conversation About Art. I am your host, Gabriela Handal. Today, I will be discussing the meaning of art and beauty with returning guest and artist Rachel Drennen. If you want to support the show, please check the video description below. Rachel, please introduce yourself to everyone and those who haven't met you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Magdalene Drennen, and I am a artist, painter, and I'm currently a fourth-year student at the Charles H. Cecil Studios in Florence, where I also work as a studio assistant and help teach drawing to the beginning students while I continue to struggle with paint.
Okay, so fourth year. Okay.
Yeah.
I am curious about this Charles Cecil studio, just because I don't think I've heard it mentioned that many times, but I have heard it mentioned several times.
Yeah.
Like, it is part of kind of like this whole atelier thing that is kind of happening apparently. Um, so is 4 years the length of the program? I'd like it if you talked to me a little bit about the program. Why did you pick this
Yeah.
place? What drew you to it?
Well, answer your first question, I think that the studio is one of the few like true ateliers, in that a lot of schools throughout Europe and America are using the word atelier, but in my opinion, an atelier is when you have like a master artist and then their students. But I think size really matters, and I think a lot of the schools that call themselves an atelier are probably more of an academy. But at school, I think we have under 25 students of various levels, and Charles is the main instructor, and then we have another instructor, Sam Good, who's the assistant director, and then we have some visiting alumni that will come, such as Isabella Watling and George William Clark, who are really great painters in their own rights. Um, I'm currently, it's my fourth year, but people come for less and for more time. It's a kind of a fluid structure, so we're not getting granted a certificate at the end. It's mainly about what we're actually learning. So it's a technical training. But how I came upon the school, I had just studied at the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts, which is sadly not really much of a thing anymore. It's lost its BFA program.
Really?
But while I was studying there, yeah, it's a recent occurrence. There's some financial problem that was
Oh,
happening
that
with the
sucks.
school. My previous instructor, Peter Van Dyke, he is trying to help resurrect the certificate program, which is something that the academy offered from like the 1860s. So hopefully it will survive in some manner. But when I studied there, I was a bit disappointed with the lack of training that I found.
Right.
It's an old school. It was the oldest art school in America, but training wise, it was kind of like I had to learn. I had to initiate what I wanted to learn, but I did have a few really good instructors that were Peter Van Dyke and Carolyn Pyfrom were both alumni from the Florence Academy. And I discussed with them and with Carolyn in particular, because she was my first like painting instructor. I told her I really wanted to study somewhere else and really learn how to do portrait painting and to just learn how to paint in the way that I saw, like when you go to an art museum, you see these beautiful paintings. I didn't feel like that was being taught anymore. And on one hand, like I liked the abstract painting classes I was taking, but when I looked at the ateliers online, everything was very overly rendered and felt a little bit too photographic for me. So I knew that that wasn't really what I was looking for. But Carolyn actually recommended the Charles H. Cecil Studios once I talked to her about it, and I also discovered Isabella Watling on Instagram, as well as a few other artists. And what really drew me to her paintings in particular were that they felt full of life. They felt very lifelike without being sterile and like photographic. So they felt like breathing paintings, but they looked like paintings. And that really surprised me because a lot of the artwork that I was looking at on Instagram was impressive, but it felt photo derivative, or had
Mm-hmm.
a feeling of not the same timelessness that her paintings and other artists that I found from this studio had. And another really interesting thing is, now having studied at the studio and seeing paintings in real life that Bella and George and other instructors have done, the paintings look even better in real life. And I think that so many times when I go to an art show, I see something on Instagram, and when I see it in real life, it doesn't really improve upon, it doesn't look necessarily bad in real life, but it doesn't look better in real life. And
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that we're with Instagram and all these annoying like websites, and I mean, we're so lucky to have these platforms, or we wouldn't be able
Sure.
to talk, and I wouldn't have discovered her work at all. But I think that sometimes it's not a means to an end, and it's just an end in itself. And I don't really want to be creating like Instagram art. I want to be creating
Mm-hmm.
art that I happen to use that platform for. But
Yes.
anyway, very long answer on my part.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, yes. So, what else do you think you like pick up on, I guess, from this kind of atelier boom sort of? Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I guess
what are your thoughts on that?
I think that so the by boon, do you mean like the reoccurrence of the atelier, or
Yes, and yeah, I mean, so okay, so I found the distinction that you made of of academy versus atelier like really helpful. Because
yeah.
I mean, it didn't even occur to me that I hadn't done it, or that it hadn't occurred to me to look up what
Yeah.
atelier means, and kind of like what makes a place an atelier. And I mean, I
Yeah.
think kind of like what you said about
Good
the amount of
question.
people. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that there isn't a lot of people, because it can be like the master's atelier where there's this one main guy who has a lot of experience with art, is
Hmm.
very skilled, very he's a master, and then he has these apprentices to whom he is teaching how to paint, and how to run a
Yeah.
studio, how to have a studio, how to maintain it, whatever. Versus an academy is kind of like a little more industrial in a way, in the sense that it can handle more people, it has more teachers. It's
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
I'm
that's a
totally
good.
speculating, so yes, please illustrate me on these
Okay, cool.
things.
I think that's a pretty good definition. I think that I also I don't know the actual like translation. I know atelier is a French word, and it started out in the 1900s
It's like
with
workshop.
artists like Carlos Duran and Jerome, and different French artists would run studios out of their own studio. They'd have students come, advanced students, work with them, because the academies were so full of students that they didn't really get one-on-one training.
Mm-hmm.
And artists like Sargent would studied in Carlos Duran's studio. Artists like Manet studied with I can't remember his name. Uh, Thomas Couture had an atelier that Manet studied with, and so I think that yeah, I would definitely maintain it's definitely about the number of students versus faculty. So the fact that there's the one master artist, and I mean, I think that Sam Good and other instructors at the school would maintain that they're still students of Charles. And I think that it is like we're all continuously learning even while we're instructing. Um, I think that another thing that when I mentioned that Isabella Watling's paintings looked better in life, I think that the key ingredient with our atelier specifically is that we work only from life,
Mm-hmm.
and that is like our core philosophy. And I think that we're also learning how to paint in an organic way that would allow us to work, hopefully, from life the rest of our career. So we're not. Other academies and ateliers may have their students start with like bark drawings, or some like academies in Florence and elsewhere will have their student do like one cast drawing for a whole semester or whole term, some even more than one term. And I think that for a beginning student, we're trying to train the eye. We're not trying to polish a bad lay-in. So we're trying to
Mm-hmm.
teach the student how to see. And so we'll go right to the cast. and we'll skip the bark drawing, and we go right to the cast, and we have the student do every week or so a new cast drawing where they're always laying in and then finishing in charcoal. So we're trying to teach them like a painterly mindset that will translate to painting as they go into portrait drawing and then portrait painting in their upper levels. So I think that there is this emphasis on working from life, and then with instructors that are also alumni. So Isabella Watling, she'll come back with George William Clark to teach for an entire month. And the really cool thing is that they're not just teaching, they're actually painting alongside us. So I got to paint with her this past month. And then I'm working alongside the first years. So there's this level of like one room schoolhouse in a way, where we're all learning from each other as well as from the instructors. And the instructors are students. So
Right.
I think you also interviewed Quinlan Cooney recently.
Yeah.
He's a good friend of mine. So he's a year above me, but he in my first year, he was in his second year, and he would do cast drawings with us. And in a really cool way for me, now that I'm in that spot as well, I just finished up 2 weeks of cast drawing with the first year students, and it keeps the muscle, like it's a good muscle to continuously strengthen. Just like if you do anatomy studies continuously, you always need to sharpen your mind and your eye. And so I do think there's this really special level of closeness that we have to each student because we remain in a similar position.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. I think it's really good for the alumni. I mean, the people that finished the course of study to come back and teach, but also draw alongside. Continue to draw, like you were saying just now about drawing casts with people who are just getting started. To really remind oneself that you're really not done learning. And like the cast, like the cast drawing in particular, I've only ever done it at the New York Academy in the first year because it's mandatory for drawing majors, and I fucking hated it. I think I told you that in the first episode. I don't remember if I did or not, but I kind of want to quickly rant about something that is tangential because I modeled a little bit, for figure drawing classes. I don't know if you have. But there's like always somebody that'll be like, hey, can you please move just like a quarter of an inch to the left because you moved and stuff. And it's like, you know what? You want something that doesn't move? Try drawing a cast, okay? It does not move, and it is way more difficult, actually. Let me tell you. So that's it. That's the rant. Just for anyone complaining about the model breathing or chewing or moving or fidgeting or whatever, it's like, you need to calm down and be grateful that it's a living thing. Okay, so I wanted to ask you also regarding this kind of like the policy of, I mean, what I think I understood is the policy of Charles Cecil Atelier, that the goal of what they want to, one of the goals of what they want what they teach is to not use photography, to always work from life. And so what is the argument what is the argument behind that? And are there never circumstances under which one can use a photograph? Is there a way to use a photograph where the the work that you are making referencing the photograph will not look photographic? Because I mean, I agree with you. I agree that it is a flaw when somebody just takes a picture without thinking about it, and then their drawing or painting just looks like a reproduction of the picture, and then that's stupid, in my opinion, because it's pointless, because you already took the picture. Just take the picture, just frame the picture. So then, but at the same time, I'm or at least I like to think, because I can't afford models. I can afford myself because I don't have to pay for myself. But like in terms of hiring models or whatever it may be, if I want to draw a specific thing, I consider pictures of things kind of like a tool that helps me, but does not completely determine that with like my output. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know. What are your thoughts about? It's like, what is the reasoning of the Charles Cecil argument of always working from life, and then what are your thoughts in general about using photography as an aid for artistic output?
Well, I mean, first of all, I really love photography as an art form in itself. And so I don't think that we're just like randomly like anti-photography.
Of
I think
course.
that it really depends on the aesthetic that you're after and what you're trying to achieve with your own art. So I think that for certain types of painting and drawing, using photography as a resource and as a like collage almost, if you have different photos that you're using as references, could be good for more illustrative or more photo based art. But I think that what we're trying to do and what our argument is that the paintings that we are looking at, that we're inspired by, that are our historic artistic ancestors, we would probably talk about like Van Dyck or Velasquez or Rembrandt. The type of painting that they're doing, you're not going to be able to achieve, you're not going to be able to create that sort of painting from photos,
I see.
because in my opinion and in our philosophy, the it's like it's integral to the painting process to be working with another live human being, and that the observation that happens from life under natural light from a distance, the visual impression that you're able to create and conjure up working in a studio with a model is unattainable. That atmosphere and that life that I've seen in the paintings that I admire is, in my opinion, impossible to achieve. That doesn't mean that you can't achieve another sort of art that is also beautiful, but this in Velasquez's paintings, the air and the breath that you feel in the painting is from working from life. And I think that as an artist who has been working from life for quite a long time now, I mean, at PAFA, I worked from life, and then I've been working from life at the studio. I think that the different models that I've worked with, whether it's for portrait or for figure, I am discovering what I'm painting and what I would like to paint while I'm working with a model. So working with the model in real life, choosing the pose, having choosing the outfit, choosing the angle, but then this compression of all of these different moments into this one canvas. So if I'm working with a model for 2 weeks, all of those moments of subtle variety being compressed into this image that someone sees at once is there's a power there that it can't be achieved from using a photograph, because I really do think that the painting is a collaboration between my viewing and my perception of this person who's allowing me to look at them. And I don't know if in another way as well, like I at the studio we have a sketch night that we do every week in the evenings. So we do a series of like quicker drawings instead of like during the week the first year students will draw the same figure drawing for over the course of a week. But in this one afternoon on Tuesday afternoons we have this, you know, rapid drawing. Well, we'll do like a 15-minute drawing and then another 15-minute drawing,
Mm-hmm.
which I know like sometimes when you do croquis or gesture drawings you might do 1-minute drawings, but relatively it's shorter than our week-long drawing. And because I've been in charge of that over the course of 2 or 3 years, 2 years I'd say now, and I have some models, that figure models that are reoccurring, it's really cool to observe and to get to know the model and get to know with their physique and their personality the poses that I want to do every time I work with a model change, and I get to have a deeper sense of what looks natural and what looks beautiful with them. And it also depends on like what I want to say. But I do think that the sense of vitality and the sense of getting to know the model, and if the point of the painting is to make this personal portrait or figure, I think that there's a power to figurative art when it's working from life that it's really truly impossible to achieve from a photograph. And I know that that seems like a, you know, a daunting prospect, because I know that so many of us, we're all starving artists. So how do I hire models, and how do I make this affordable and make sense? And um, there is always the self-portrait. We're also like training to work from commission. So if you get to have a life model that is hiring you to paint their portrait, it is difficult, but I think that it's worth it. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that it's the kind of thing that hopefully will there'll be a way. If there's a will, there's a way.
Sure. Okay, fair enough. All right, so let's start talking about, or well, not start talking, let's continue talking um about art specifically, because so I'm gonna put a card up in the video um of your first episode here on the podcast.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
just so that people can visit that, if they want to. But your definition, I mean, what you provided as a definition of art at the time has stuck with me, and probably because of how you used the word arse, which is supposed to be the root word, I think, like the
Oh, the Latin
etymological.
word.
The Latin word.
Yeah.
And it's like that sounds like arse, like arse.
Yeah. Yeah, sitting on one's arse.
Yeah,
Ars
but
artis.
artiste, and then it meaning something that is skillfully made. So that has stuck with me and has brought me respite lots of times, just because I agree pretty hard with that, and I guess I just want to, I don't know, chew through it a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, so I guess I particularly like, I mean, I like the entire definition, but I think the two words skillfully and made are really quite significant to, I mean, really quite significant, a large part of what art is. So skill insinuates something that has taken time to accumulate. So you have to cultivate skill, meaning you have to practice in order to get to a certain point. You don't just start doing something you haven't done before, and then be like, all right, this is a skill, and it's not, because it's like, all right, you can get on the bike and what, but you have to learn to be on it without the
training wheels.
Yeah, the training wheels, and then you can just go down the street, and then you can do wheelies and stuff. For example, it's like that is a cultivation of skill. And then the part about being made, so that refers to an interference and an interaction of the would-be artists with an object, and changing that object in a way, you're, because it isn't
not like spontaneous generation, like where
it
Aristotle
isn't.
believed the insects, like the maggots on the piece of meat, just appeared spontaneously. Like
Yes.
something is developed and organically is made.
Yes. Yes, and it's like, I guess one could argue about, like, oh, where is the threshold, because of course, I can be like, oh, do I have to make the paper that I draw on, or I didn't make the drawing? For example, do I have to make the pencil? For example, like this type of stuff. But yeah, so what do you think about that? And if you could elaborate more still on the part about making something.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that we have to be like Nara Smith on Instagram, where we're like have to make bubble gum.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
grow the bubble gum like from outside. I think that it's interesting that you're bringing this up, because I should have re-listened to our first conversation, but I do still hold by that definition I gave, even with the funny Latin pronunciation. Art is something that is skillfully made, and obviously it's such a big umbrella, the art of cooking or the art of this or the art of that. But with fine art, I think that things have gotten so out of whack that people can just like tack up a banana and it's art. Everybody knows, like every plebeian, using another Roman word, all of us know, like even civilians that aren't painters, when like a painting is somebody knew what they were doing in their own way. It can be, someone doing a watercolor, or like a Japanese woodcut in the 12th century, or Van Dyck doing a painting. There are levels of what skill can mean, but someone who is like integrated is able to achieve what they envision and has the skills to communicate what they're envisioning and making it. I think that there's obviously varying degrees of levels, but I think that those two things are integral. And thinking what else that you said.
about making something?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I don't think that you need to, like, I do think that art is really an alchemic process where, like you start with pigment and like dirt, and then all of a sudden like pastels is like powder, and you're like, wow, I just made a human being. And it's dust, and you made an image of somebody. And it's also really sad and tragic in a way when you do a beautiful charcoal drawing, a pastel drawing, and then it falls, or you breathe on it and it blows away. Like, there is this tragedy to this temporalness that we're trying to, with painting and drawing, we're trying to create something, and everything that ever exists is going to wear away with time, or wear away like while you're drawing it. But this attempt to transform, straw into gold if you're Rumpelstiltskin, or pastel. You don't have to make, like, I have done something that we do at the studio is we do make our own paints. We don't, not like, you don't have to, but it's something that we've been encouraged to investigate. So we will make our own paints, and I've made some canvases before, but I haven't like grown my own flax. Like,
All right.
I don't think being an artist is being a craftsman, and I think that knowing your tools and knowing your materials is very important, but that can mean something different for everyone. So like being in tune with the objects that you're using, just like if you were an instrument, your own instrument, your piano, the specific piano that you're playing is going to be different than the piano at like the concert hall. Like you do get in tune with the materials and the objects that you're working with, just like you get in tune with the models that you're working with. But I think that the levels the variety of what you've made can change, but the alchemic process of creating the image with the materials, I think, is the thing that in fine art matters the most.
Yes. That's really funny about Nara Smith, because yes, she will
Yeah.
sometimes, it's like, I mean, if I guess comparatively with what we're talking about, like she would weave the canvas itself, or I guess, I don't even know how to
You
make
grow the
fabric.
flax and,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Grow the flax, make the flaxseed oil, and make the brushes with, pluck the hairs out of the whatever.
The
Uh-huh,
hog,
yes.
yeah.
And
Breed some sables and
yes.
breed the weasels. Yeah.
Yes. So the in the case of making the paints yourself, what information of value have you derived? That, I mean, has there been anything in making paints that has changed the way you paint, for example, or
Hmm.
changed how you select color when you go to paint, or I don't know, has it done anything to when you paint? I guess.
Yeah, I do think that, like, personally, um, you have more control when you're making your paints of how thick or thin. So like if you get like Winsor Newton paints versus Gamblin, you'll discover through using them that some are going to be more oily, some are more like Old Holland paints are very thick and substantial. And I like, especially with the lead white. So we use a very limited palette, and which we will extend for landscape or for painting with like more artificial colors in the outfit or what's happening. But like for the skin, we use a very limited palette of lead white, vermilion, yellow ochre, ivory black. Sometimes we'll add other earth tones to that, but that's generally the main like limited palette. And with the lead white, which is obviously, like, a lot of people are like, well, that's really toxic, and it is. But with making your own paint, cautiously using gloves and having a mask and ventilation, um, being able to determine how thick it is and how much calcium carbonate you add to it, which is an extra ingredient that adds a bit more grit. I do think it is an interesting discovery, uh, playing around with and testing out these different levels of substance to your paints. And something I'm always trying to develop and work on is, one, with these paints, how to apply them in a learning how to fuse the paints and how to incorporate like a nice substantialness of the paint, but not having the brushiness distract from the overall image. And so I'm constantly battling with how to achieve a more atmospheric and soft look, while I tend to have like a my natural instinct is to be super duper brushy. When I paint, I feel like I'm sometimes like cooking on a stovetop and you have something burning in the back and then the rice is overflowing. So I always feel like I'm like playing the drums or cooking on a stove. So I don't know, it is like this chaotic process, but I think that I also feel grounded starting out like a ritual before I paint. Making my paints just makes me get in the mood. But I don't make all of them. So like vermilion, it's too much, another toxic material that I don't need to make. And so there's an art supply store here in Florence called Zecchi's, and they make a good enough vermilion that we use. And Michael Harding is also a good brand. So within reason, I'll make some of my paints.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is this brushiness you're talking about? Is that the same as painterliness?
Yeah. I'm more talking about like paint application, I guess, and the just like in a painting, in art history or in art class, you might hear someone talk about like lost and found edges, where sometimes you want to create a sharp edge between, you know, the background and the, you know, if you have like the someone's shoulder and you have the shoulder color and the background color, sometimes you're going to leave that edge sharp. Other times you're going to make a transition tone and try to make a sense of the volume going back into space. And so I'm constantly trying to discover how to push how to how to push the effect. So the visual effect of making things, um, of choosing like a hierarchy of like what do I want the viewer to focus on. So it's making certain things more detailed or sharp, and then how to be more soft and atmospheric with the other parts of the image. I'm not there yet, but it's something that have been playing with and trying to play with, and that I've noticed in paintings that I admire and painters that I admire do have this sense of atmosphere and a visual hierarchy. Like if you look at a Velasquez painting, like the Juan de Pareja in the Metropolitan Museum, there's so much intensity in the eyes. And if you look down at his hand, it's not like, oh, that's such a good painted hand. It's not a bad painted hand, but it's not important. And he paints it in a way where it's out of focus. And I think that's really cool to witness the way that the painting has this effect of it, like the way the painter made the painting is directing your eye and teaching you what to value visually.
Okay, yes. Yeah, I definitely think a previous guest has mentioned this whole thing about edges also, and kind of like the discernment of the artist, meaning that the artist, that's part of what the artist does, which, for example, a different medium like a camera can't do.
Yeah.
And that because you know, like this person also talks about that very thing, about how like the point of a medium is that it is unique in what you can do with it. You know,
Yeah,
so like
exactly.
the point of the camera, yeah, like the point of the camera is that it's going to be like that moment, that is exact moment, you know, and then cool, you got it. That's your that's your photograph. But then, you know, like with painting, the point is that it is a painting, so make sure that it looks like paint, you know, for
Mm,
example. But then like
yeah.
but then the manipulation of the painter, you know, the pencil or the stone or whatever, then that's where the artist's discernment comes in, meaning that the artist can choose what to make sharp or clear and what to leave
Yeah.
out of focus. And then,
Or like when to break the illusion of like this, like the ebb and flow of like this is paint or this is skin. Like when you're painting something and you want to have the illusion of it looking like the thing you're painting, and other times you
sure.
actually want to like trick the viewer and you're like, wait, this is actually paint, and so you have
Mm-hmm.
that more brushy. Um, no, I think it's I think about a lot of times I will think of like musical analogies. So my
Mm-hmm.
younger
Mm-hmm.
sister, and something I think about is like when you're a beginning artist or musician, your main goal is to like hit the right notes. And
Right.
so when she was younger and I would go to recital, I'd always be like, "Oh, don't hit the wrong note," because I knew what it meant to her. And but like as she developed in her musical abilities, it wasn't about she knew all the right notes and she had them memorized. It was about like how loud or how soft am I going to hit this one note? How am I going to transition from these notes to this note, and like the passages and like the interpretation of the notes. And I think that like I finally feel like, okay, I do know how to draw, but now what am I using with this like visual impression? Like I have the ability to capture likeness to a certain degree, so I get the shapes okay. But what am I beyond just what's okay or what's right? How am I going to how soft or how loud or how gentle or how allegra or like all the musical notes that you find in the sheet music? Like how am I going to um, distill this image that I see in my eyes onto the page, and how am I going to translate it as the interpreter?
Right. Yes. Yeah, because I've always had an issue with hyperrealism and photorealism. Um, and I wasn't able to kind of understand what the problem is. And I mean, I'm not sure that I would still be I'm not sure whether I can explain it even now, but I think it has something to do
Mm-hmm.
with this discernment that we're talking about. Because, so first
Yeah.
of all, not only is it just reproducing a photograph, and it's like, all right, what is the point of painting it now? Because the original medium already did what it can do. Now your medium should do what
Mm-hmm.
your medium can do. Um, but then there's also this aspect of discernment, and like also, I mean, I think at first when you were talking about the paintings, like what drew you to Charles Cecil Studios, how those paintings just look different in the sense that, I mean, look, it's different obviously from a hyper-realist painting or a photograph, um, in the sense that, there's just something there. There's something there that is something different, and maybe you can tell me what exactly is that is different, other than, like maybe the painterliness, or I don't know, like the discernment of the artist, like like I don't know. What is the difference?
So let me just re-ask the question to you to make sure I understand the
Yeah.
question. The difference between photorealism and, I guess, working from life, or the paintings that I see at the studio.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I mean, I think that you hit the nail on the head when you say that you are just like copying. So, if, like, I think photography is such a cool art, and I've had the pleasure to work with a few friends that are photographers and post for them. And it's been such an interesting experience seeing how they arrange the image and what they like, how they achieve their results. So, my one friend works with film, and she had like a certain number of film photos that she had left on her camera. So she had like 5 photos, and she took so long like arranging every single thing, like whether it's like a ringlet of hair. And it really did remind me of when I'm setting up a portrait. But I think that yeah, photography is already its art, and a lot of people that are doing like photorealistic art where they just have their source, whether they took that image or not, I do think that you're just like, yeah, it's an impressive skill to be able to render a one to one.
Sure.
But I do feel like you feel like a photography, like you're like acting like a photo machine. And I think that it is deeper than that, though. I think that it is a philosophical difference. And I think that like today, in today's age, like everybody has a smartphone in their pocket, me included. I have a smartphone on my lap, and I'm holding this computer right here. So we all have like the smartphone in our pocket. We're walking around with billboards and moving images. We're so inundated with like advertisements and consumerism and visual images that are flashing in front of our eyes that I think that a sense of slowness and like of taking in an image and taking in what we're experiencing in general and throughout our modern consumeristic culture, like we're really lost. And I think that that slowness and the sense of witnessing time is another ingredient of why working from life is so special. And the the thing that I was really struck by as a first year student when I first came to the studio is that Charles would, with an assistant, so like Quinlan Cooney or Sam Good, he would work with them to help set up the figure model. And they'd spend like a half hour making sure it looked good lighting wise. What does it look like around the room? Does everybody get a good, nice angle? the sense of grace was thought about. It wasn't just like, okay, here's the model, sit down, draw it quick. And that's what I experienced in my old school. We'd have a model like in the middle of the room, the lighting was terrible, and it like you were handed a pencil or a paintbrush, and I was always told like, okay, sink or swim, have fun, draw. We're working from life. But there is this sense of like, we're working from life, but we still are the artist, we're still the creator. So it's this choreography of working from life where in our oval figure drawing room, we are south facing light, not north facing light. So we have these like pirate ship like sails that we manipulate to adjust the lighting throughout the day. And I don't know, I think it is interesting. Like we are in charge. And so we're not just like passive observers that we're just like, okay, whatever. Like we do have there is this like meeting place between creating something that you want to look at and then working from life. So I think that I don't know, I just think that there's so much there that it's difficult to put into words. But I do think that because like photography is so easy, and in our like speedy impatient culture, it seems like, okay, just like take a photo of me, and if you're like a portrait commissioner, like take a photo of me and make something. But I think that if you are really wanting a quality portrait, it's not just about capturing a one-to-one image or a likeness. It's about the likeness is much more than the physical shapes and appearances. It's the
Right.
soul, it's the spirit. And I really think that from my experience working with friends and models who are friends, some people, like some models I've sensed, like they're actually like they're letting you look at them, and there's this vulnerability there that is unfolds throughout the working process. So
Okay.
very long answer, but
Oh no, no, that's great. I was just thinking, um, I was thinking further about the comparison of between. It should really just be photorealism because that's what an alleged hyperrealist is really trying to do. Just
mm-hmm.
copy the photograph. But the comparison between that and painting or drawing from life is that if it wasn't for, I mean, if you were trying to make a hyperreal, I don't think you would be able to make a hyperrealistic or photorealistic image from life,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's
Yeah,
a really interesting aspect of working from life is the constant change and movement. I mean, I'm not talking in the moment, like when you're working for the 3 hours of the day, for example,
yeah,
but over different days. It's like if you come back the next day to your pose or whatever, even if the model takes the pose as best as they can, you took pictures, you put down markers, whatever, it doesn't look the same. It's really weird.
yeah, the
I
constant change.
Yeah, and
I think so. I think that what we perceive to be realistic is actually, I forgot to say this, but like our mind is so informed by photography that what we perceive realism to be is when something looks like a photograph. But I think
right.
in the past, like Rembrandt and artists that like he never even left Holland, and he never went to Italy. He had etchings of Italian paintings. So like what people's awareness of like visual language and what they perceive to be realistic, they had a totally different visual experience to us because they didn't have the same like eye pollution that we have.
Right.
um, so I do think that there's like what is realism. I think that Isabella Watling's paintings and other people from the studio, her paintings feel more real to me, or Velasquez's painting feels more real, even though there's moments where I can see the brushstroke or the glob of lead white on the jewelry. Like I can tell it's made out of paint, but because there's this witness of the model and the atmosphere, and um, we really care about something called visual impression, which is not just like staring at somebody up close and like staring at the pores in their skin, but like standing from a distance and seeing the overall image and the overall like sense of light, that describing the light, describing the form. I think that that is also real,
Mhm.
and that's a form of visual reality. It just it's different, and it's less highly delineated as like a photograph would be, or some photographs, like some great photographers, like I love Julia Margaret Cameron. Like she has such a painterly quality to her photographs because she's manipulated and she's taken the medium to a different extreme where she has softened certain things and blurred things and has her sharper edges. So she actually is, in my opinion, being a painter with her photographs. Just like some people can be acting like a photographer with their paintings, I think that it's goes both ways.
Sure. Okay. Okay, so I want us to now move on to discussing beauty again. I did watch your episode recently, but not like yesterday or something. It was like
Yeah,
2-3 weeks ago or something. So I don't actually remember what you told me about that. So why don't you give me a rough idea of what you think what beauty is? And yes, start with that.
Okay. All right, let me give you an answer, and then at the end of this, I'm going to go listen to the old podcast, and I wonder what because I would never have been able to tell you that I said the Ars Artis thing. I like that completely. It's something I still believe, but I wouldn't have remembered that point. What is beauty? That is a very loaded question. I think that beauty is.
Why is it a loaded question?
I think it's such a like nobody. It's so frivolous, and people like. Well, I personally don't think it's frivolous. I think that beauty is what gives meaning to life. Like I think that something that is beautiful, beauty teaches us in a different way than like information or knowledge or truth or other things teach us. I think beauty is something that speaks to our hearts and emotions. I think that for me, like working from life and painting the portrait or the figure, there's like so many different levels of like beauty. Like beauty can be an abstract thing, like a quality of a line, and it can be an emotional thing, like a sense of really feeling like you're seeing somebody and the vulnerability in that. So I think that in a painting, beauty is a feeling like a feeling of tenderness, maybe. Like I think that when I look at a Velasquez portrait, I'm not just interested in it because it's well done or it's impressive or it's like, oh la la, they're so good. I think that beauty is more than just this like quality of imitation, which is like an impressive thing that, you know, representational art is about imitation. I think that like Aristotle in his Poetics says like mimesis is like copying something, is something that we're attracted to in painting. But I think that when I look at across cultures and across paintings, other art that I admire, that's not necessarily like my style, but when I look at like a painted pottery from like the colonial 18th century Williamsburg, or if I look at a woodcut or like a type of fabric or clothing, I think that across the platforms of art, I think beauty is when there's like a genuine delight in what the person is seeing in their mind or in their eyes and what they're creating. I think that there is this integrated quality between the artist and the thing that they're making. I don't know, it's really difficult to describe, but I think also like a lack of, not a lack of, but a sense of genuineness where the person is really revealing themselves. And I think that's what I find beautiful when I look at a piece of art and I feel like the artist is, whether they're trying to or not, expressing and showing their heart. I don't know, I guess that's like the most corny thing I can say, but I think that me, the paintings that I love, I feel like Edward Voyard, he's a symbolist painter from the like post-impressionist era. I actually have a little booklet by him that I always have like on my bedside. He was part of like this group called Les Nabis with Bonnard and Maurice Denis. Let's see, he does like this very decorative like interior scenes of like women sewing or reading or
Okay.
so a lot of times patterning in the clothing and the backgrounds. mimic each other, and like there's this ebb and flow of the shapes. But something that I see in Voyard that I also see in Velasquez, completely different painters. There is this like intensity to like what they're expressing something and creating something that they really want to create. And I think that artwork that I distrust more, I don't feel like there's the same level of commitment with the maker. But I don't know, I think that's like more of a an artistic sense of beauty. I think like the overall like universal what is beauty, it's such a like such a large idea and word that it's I don't know if I can pinpoint what it is, but I think that in a painting or in art I can approach it easier.
um I'm sorry, were you gonna say something else?
No,
Okay.
I'm trying to think still.
Yes, yes, yes. I I think there's something um I think there's something between there being representational imagery, meaning just like realist, I mean, images that are based on reality, rather, is what I mean. And the beauty that you're talking about, the artistic
Yeah.
one at least. Um, because, and I'm not entirely sure why, but I think there's
Yeah.
something there all right, so just give me a minute because this is like just above my head here.
No, me too.
So
It's like the tip of your tongue, but it's also like
yeah, it's just that because okay, so there's something about the ideal,
mm-hmm.
and because like the in the salon for like in the French salon, for example,
Yeah.
it's like the paintings that were most prized, revered, and loved, not just appreciated by the judges but also loved by the public, were these historical paintings with the
Mm-hmm.
mythology, the beautiful women, the really beautiful, like all of this
Yeah.
stuff, right? And so like those are humans, they're painted,
Yeah.
but there's something about them that makes them into an ideal of something else. So
Yeah.
then there's this kind of
Hmm.
like this like earthly
I
in a
think
way. Yes, tell me.
I wonder if it's like a sense of harmony, because I think that like in music or in like abstract qualities in a painting, whether it's like the shapes, the lines, the colors, I think when there is a purposeful, the artist is manipulating like the way that they choose to create a sense of flow between the shapes, the figures on a canvas in the 18th century, 19th century salons, or the colors, choosing certain compositional and abstract aspects to the image will create a pleasing effect to the viewer. And I think that with music as well, but at the same time, these are like senses of harmony, but senses of disharmony and dissonance in a painting or in music can be beautiful, but in a more jarring way. So I think that beauty is something that that is, I don't know, it is such a, it's both like we can perceive it and we can experience it. So it does feel like it's graspable, but it also is transitory, where it's like you can eat a peach and enjoy the flavor, and then it like you have the memory of it, but it's not like you can hold on to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like it's very, very difficult to describe. I think I know what I dislike more than I know how to describe. I think it's more of a feeling, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
things can be like what beauty is supposed to be, and that can sometimes feel a little bit trite or sentimental. So I think there is this higher quality to it that is all of the things that we're saying, but then there's this other ingredient. So it is harmony. It is can sometimes be a dissonant note. It can be something that's pleasing visually, but it's more than like the senses. I think it's how the senses interact with our heart, and how the maker interacts with what they're making, and how that affects us. And I think that like painting is that such a it is a really visual language. It's a language, and I think that in a lot of modern art schools, people talk about, oh, express yourself. But I think that what is really happening is that we're trying to communicate something to the viewer. And so we are expressing something. It might not be ourselves, or whatever ourself is, but we are in this form of communication. And I think that if it's um, if it's clear and it's true, is beautiful. Like I was reading A Movable Feast by Hemingway,
Mm-hmm.
and Hemingway is always a writer that I'm not so sure whether I like or not. But this is written at the end of his life, and the main reason I read it is because I really like Fitzgerald, and it describes Hemingway's meetings with like Gertrude Stein and Fitzgerald. But there's this one chapter in it, because Hemingway is like 60 when he's writing this, but he's writing it about his 20-year-old, 25 years old days before he wrote his first novel. And there's this one chapter where he's like describing like peeling a clementine or a mandarin and struggling to write. And he says something like, if I can only write like one true sentence, and he's like, I don't want all this clutter, I just want to write one true sentence. And I think this like striving to really, just like we are with our words, we're trying to grasp something and trying to come to grips with something. I think with a painter, when I'm painting somebody and I'm struggling to like paint their eye, I'm not just trying to make it look like them, I'm trying to capture something. And I think that there is this elusiveness to everything that we are trying to pin down, and whether the beauty is the fact that we have pinned it down or whether it is the attempt of trying to pin it down, I'm not really sure. But I do think there is this, like the process and the product there is this sense of beauty in all of that. But I think I'm saying a lot of like, you know, platitudes. I'm not sure if I'm really saying
Oh no,
anything.
not
It's
at all.
really get to the core grit of it. But I think that the reason that people struggle to discover what it is because it is so difficult. I do think though that like people also, I think there is like a level of vulnerability and letting yourself have a sense of softness in your heart and in your mind to like approve, to like receive the beauty. And I think that in our modern culture, because we've thrown out so much, like, you know, we've thrown out making art, making it. I think that it's so easy to just throw out these things as being like unimportant and um, like an unimportant aspect to painting. But I think in like art forms that are doing better, like in filmmaking, for example, I think that you do see these aspects, like maybe filmmaking is not as great as it used to be, or I don't know. I'm not the one to say when something's the best at its height or when it's not. But I think that in filmmaking we have stories that have been told over and over and over again, and people aren't like, oh, that's already been told. We like appreciate these stories and these beautiful things, whether it's like a kiss on screen at the end of Cinema Paradiso, which is a really great Italian movie, or it's like, you know, just different stories and archetypes that have happened over and over again. I think that um, we're less afraid of it for some reason. But in painting, I think that the culture and the modern art world has gotten so convoluted that they're not even bothering to think about. They're not even making anything. Whether making it beautiful is like extra superfluous step. So
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes. Um. Well, I really agree with this. What you were talking about just now about like the person not allowing themselves to experience something or just anything.
mhm.
And I mean, I'm sure you know people like that. I certainly know people like
I
that
mean,
that
I
are
can
like,
be like
so
that
it's so
sometimes.
cynical. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, but it's like, but you know, like you have like this awareness that you have to allow for certain things in order to be an artist, at least for sure. Like if you
yeah,
want to make a good painting, if you want to make you know, if you want to make your drawing of this model that you're doing, or you know, like even the cast, it doesn't have to be a living thing that you're depicting.
yeah,
You have to allow for that vulnerability for the the process to take whatever shape it will, and so the drawing will result as, a drawing that that is going to be good, that looks right, is going to be the result. But yeah, I agree with the whole thing about cynicism, like that
Yeah.
really kind of, I want to say resentful cynicism, but it's like really a cynicism that is rather full of fear, in the sense that it's like, oh, I don't
Mm.
want to be vulnerable. I don't want to risk
Yeah.
being hurt by whatever it is. Like, I don't want to risk being moved to tears by this painting, for example.
Yeah.
Because, oh, it's just paint. It's because, like, I had classmates who, for whatever reason that I find extremely irritating to this day, would refer to painting, oh, I'm just moving pigment on top of a piece of fabric, like
Yeah.
trying to make it into less, like, not that important,
Mm.
because it's somehow helpful to overcome the crippling fear of doing it wrong, for example.
Yeah.
So, like,
Well, I guess
yeah.
resentment is a good word. Or like, um, my sister is like my same sister that is the musician. Is always into like these philosophical books, and I remember she was reading this one book called like Ressentiment, not resentment. It's like, oh, this is the French term, and actually, ressentiment is when you are like you have a sense of resentment where you've decided, like you've like convinced yourself that you didn't like the thing anyway. So there is this cynicism and this rejection of like, oh, look, oh, I didn't want that anyway. That stinks. And so I think that it's not like you've actually convoluted it so that you don't even feel the resentment anymore. You've decided the thing that you wanted is not valuable to want in
Hmm.
order to like appease yourself of your own desire. I
Yes.
think that, yeah, I think that all of that is definitely involved in it. I think that like I think that the same, like someone can say it in a disparaging way, like, "Oh, you're only just moving pigment across fabric," but that's actually, um, I think that's the cool thing about painting in a certain way. It is like they're thinking about it in this like clinical process way, but there is this also magic and alchemy to it, where it's like, yeah, I'm moving dirt across a piece of linen, and that is crazy that I was able to um, try to paint somebody and to try to capture who that person is, or who that still life is, or whatever the landscape you're trying to capture, both a visual image and a spiritual essence and feeling of the thing that you're painting,
Hmm.
um, based on your perception, based on what you're able to perceive. And I think that that's like, people could deny that that exists, and I think that it is this like um, it is this experiential thing that you have to decide to experience, basically.
Okay.
Like you could
Oh,
look at something,
yes.
but you're actually looking at it is, you know, up to debate.
Yes, yes. Decide to experience. I like that, because you have to choose to be vulnerable. So you choose to see the
Mm-hmm.
thing, or, you choose to look for whatever. Yes, okay. I like that a lot. And also, I think that's also really good to end the conversation, um, Rachel, because we have broken the hour mark here,
Okay.
and we should start to close it out.
Rambling
So,
away.
yeah, I mean,
But I'm
the time flies when you're having fun.
happily rambling.
Yeah,
This
no,
has been
it's,
so enjoyable because
yeah.
I know we had this conversation before and we did talk about like what is beauty, what is art, but I think in a practical sense, I'm so busy running around making paintings and trying to teach students that I'm more focused in the like, okay, how do I do what I'm trying to do right now? So it's really nice to be brought back to these like more like my values and my like, well, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because I think
Yes.
that I'm happily doing what I'm doing, but it's nice to like reintegrate myself with my why I love what I'm doing.
Yes. That's awesome. So, would you like to? Well, I guess I mean, you can add whatever else you want also besides that, which I think
Yeah,
was great. But, if is do you have any projects coming up? Anything you want to? Anything else you want to add? Where can people find your work?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm constantly making paintings. Um, I'm between like teaching drawing and making paintings, so um, I've always have projects, but I don't have anything in particular. I'm mainly on Instagram these days at Rachel Magdalene Art at Rachel Magdalene Art. I supposedly have a website that needs to be updated, so I'm not going to advertise that. This is the problem about being an artist. You have to like be a business person as well, and it's very difficult to be good at both things. I because I mentioned before that I run like a sketch club.
Uh-huh.
I usually have like ongoing like figure drawing sales on my Instagram. But yeah, that's the best way to contact me,
Okay.
or just come by Florence in person as well.
Okay. Okay, that's really great. Rachel, thank you very much again for agreeing to talk to me again, and maybe we'll do it
Yeah,
again, even still in the
I
future.
would love to do it again.
Yes, awesome. Okay, well,
All right.
thank you again, and thank you everyone for watching and listening. Please remember to check the links in the video description. The Rachel's Instagram is going to be there as well. Thank you again, and see you next time.